Well, actually, this institution is pretty much neglected in the recent studies for Ottoman intelligence, because this is mostly due to restricted policies towards the Ottoman military archives. However, with some permission, I was able to obtain many documents and present my dissertation this February. Now, today I'm going to present this neglected institution, the Ottoman Empire Supreme Command Headquarters Intelligence Section, the second branch, and its relationship with the decision-making process. Now I will share my screen, my PowerPoint. Just a moment. Can you see my PowerPoint document right now?
Yes, we see it if you go on full screen.
Full screen, just a moment. I forgot the short, was it F5?
F5, I think, yes. F5, is it Foxtrot 5?
F5 doesn't work. Just
Okay.
a second. Just one moment, I'm trying. Okay, now that ain't working right now, but is it okay if I just move on like this?
I think if you double click, it might full screen.
I tried.
Double, triple, quadruple doesn't work right now. Last minute's always counts. And okay, let me continue. I mean, this when I say decision makers, we will mostly focus on actually the war ministry here, because I mean, after the 1913 coup in the Ottoman Empire, when military seized over the government, and along with the declaration for mobilization and also the martial law administration, the war ministry became a great decision-making authority in the empire. And the highest military unit in the provinces became responsible from that province. And this resulted in the heavy reliance on military's experience in the empire's strategy. So this branch, the second branch, the military intelligence branch, normally dealt with military intelligence activities. However, with this extending process of decision making for the war ministry resulted in the extension of the tasks for this branch, and this branch became responsible from foreign intelligence, from military to political, and also counter-espionage practices, censorship, and political and confidential. I mean, the reason I'm implying this is the second branch, yes, it provided the decision makers, I mean, the government, the war ministry, and also the foreign ministry with military intelligence reports. However, but it also became a consumer of intelligence as well, because it was totally responsible from counter-espionage practices and censorship, and also propaganda. So I mean, it was kind of an overlapping situation for the Ottoman Empire. Now, I would like to shortly mention about how it classified the reports before presented, and before I dig into these reports. As in modern meaning, the reports were divided as basic, current, and estimative, and the basic intelligence reports were put into journals as political intelligence journals, war journals, censorship desk war journals, spy record books. And besides these basic intelligence reports, there were daily and weekly intelligence reports sent to ministries. The estimated ones, I mean, that mostly relied on, how can I say, the combat intelligence. But however, as it required momentary intelligence, it was mostly used, so it was mostly gathered by the intelligence officers in the battlefront. So in this case, I will divide this information and how it was made use of in terms of foreign intelligence, and also counter-espionage and censorship and propaganda. Now, for foreign intelligence, we should first focus on the grand strategy. I mean, the grand strategy was war strategy, and the war ministry demanded analysis of the threats, possible threats, the alliances, mobilization, and capacity that could change the course of the war. And from the reports, we can see that some of the political intelligence disseminated to foreign ministry and the war ministry were about public opinion, morale, political debates, economic conditions, trade agreements, domestic policies that can affect foreign diplomacy, social dynamics, and diplomacy amongst other states. Now, I would like to provide some examples what I mean by this. For instance, at the beginning of the war, the first director of the second branch, as he states in his memoirs, that the order that was given from the war ministry was gather everything you can about the Balkan states and Russia. And why? Because I mean, the neutral states like Italy, Greece, and Bulgaria were closely observed for possible alliances and hostilities. So in this case, I would like to highlight a few cases. For instance, the War Ministry and Ministry of Foreign Relations at the beginning of the war demanded information about whether attacking Greece without awaiting its declaration for war would be beneficial. However, based on the report of the second branch to these aforementioned institutions, it was stated that as long as Bulgaria stayed neutral, declaring war against Greece would result in deploying Ottoman's first and second armies from the Bosphorus area and leaving it without defense. So therefore, it would be like too risky, and it would, I mean, and also it could cause another Balkan alliance, and the Ottomans feared that Balkan alliance since the Balkan Wars. So in this case, this report was also supported by another report that stating that, I mean, the public sphere in Bulgaria. It was implied, for instance, that the large majority of Bulgarian citizens in Macedonia openly rebelled to join the war by burning bridges in Macedonia, and attacking Greece could cause another Balkan alliance in this case. However, we can see that this analysis began to change after 1915, as the diplomatic relations between Bulgaria and Romania were getting worse. And considering Romania, I mean, this is also another interesting case. The second branch formed a civilian intelligence committee, which mostly contained of bilingual merchants, and they tried to make a political how can I say, interviews with especially the Conservative Party about the Romania's position, and they also prepared a report based on the Central War Ministry, stating that, I mean, Romania would probably take side with the triple intent powers in this case. So an alliance with Bulgaria would be much useful. But and also for Austrian policies, although Austria was an ally of the Ottoman Empire, the second branch also tried to obtain through, I mean, attaches along with some spies, and also saying, for instance, when the Austrian Emperor Franz Joseph, I mean, intended to provide financial support with developing new relations with Italy and Austria. However, on the background, Austria was also preparing its divisions for an against attack Italy. So I mean, this according to this report, this was just a political game trying to deceive the other without attacking Italy in this case. I mean, we can see such reports of both political concerns and military concerns in this case. But however, not all the intelligence reports were always taken seriously, which is quite obvious in the defeat in the Sarıkamış. The second branch, we can see a lot of reports sent to War Ministry in this case about not going into an open war with Russia in the eastern side. However, as we know that Enver Pasha, the famous war minister and the previously formerly the head of the general staff, commander of the general staff, did not listen, and his whole army was almost annihilated at Sarıkamış in this case. So in this besides this, when we focus on totally foreign intelligence in the strategic level, the second branch, as we can see, focused on the weaponry, organization, staff, capabilities, strengths, weaknesses, and logistics and supplies of the armies. And here I will try to make it as clear as useful. For instance, this was based on, I translated, it was written in old Ottoman document. As you can see, for instance, this is the intelligence report on the weaponry and supplies of the Romanian army. So from these supplies to the military intentions, and the second branch gathered and presented them to War Ministry in case, fortifying or deploying the army units with necessary supplies in this case. And when we look at this is mostly about the strategic position of the second branch, and when we see it from the operational level, we can see that the military movements, dynamic deployment, disposition of the armies, numbers, etc., were mostly prepared on the map. And in this case, the army commanderships played a greater role and sent the raw material from their own sources, and this was analyzed within the second branch headquarters. And based on the information that it had gathered, it provided the general staff with possible conflicts. And as, for instance, as you can see in this map, this is written in the old Ottoman Turkish. After Bulgaria, for instance, joined in the triple side entente, and they expected an attack. This is near Stromoka of Bulgaria, and this is where they expected an attack from, if you can follow my mouse here. And the second branch required these places to be fortified. And after this report, the First Army sent certain divisions and supplies to support the Bulgarian army at this place, in this case. When we move on to some tactical levels, let me move on. I mean, the tactical combat intelligence is not as modern means here. I mean, it requires actually momentary intelligence. However, this was mostly analyzed by second branch intelligence officers at the operations theater rather than the headquarters. So what we can see from the report is merely a reflection of what happened at the battlefronts in this case. And these were mostly presented in intelligence summaries rather than daily intelligence reports. For instance, from the battlefronts, the second branch obtained, for instance, information from the Western Front, the Iraq Front, Macedonia, Army Group, German Crown Prince, etc., and sent this information to War Ministry. But we actually have no clear analysis about the effectiveness, because it was mostly analyzed within the operations theater, not in the headquarters of the second branch. The second thing I would like to mention is the domestic intelligence here. In other words, the counter-espionage rather than the domestic intelligence. Now, as I stated in the beginning of this presentation, the second branch was both the consumer and the gatherer of intelligence for domestic security, because the second branch was granted to take all the preventive measurements against espionage. First of all, with a regulation, the pursuit and arrest of people being a spy was prohibited without the consent of the nearest second branch intelligence officer in the army or the second branch headquarters. Therefore, the Secretary General Directorate and Gendarmerie was subordinated to this branch during this war period. I mean, however, this does not mean that other ministries did not demand information from the second branch. So I can say that especially the Ministry of Internal Relations and also the Secretary General Directorate made use of this branch. Now, I can emphasize some of the measurements. For instance, the second branch distributed reports of denounced spying suspects that contained books about the methods of spying activities, and prepared a booklet and sent it to especially the Security General Directorate, harbor masters, and also gendarmerie, that contained espionage methods of, for instance, vegetable distributors to travelers' belongings, cigarette papers, dental dams, lethal postcards, Photoshop owners, singers in the street. I mean, for possible spying activity through subliminal messages. Now, through these reports, the police officers, on the behalf of Internal Ministry, could pursue and arrest the suspected easily. But however, at the end, the police department had to send reports to the second branch, no matter what. The second branch in this case became so strong that it was also able to impose certain legal regulations besides acting adversary in this case. For instance, what I mean by this, the War Ministry demanded this branch to prepare intelligence reports regarding certain laws to prevent espionage. Therefore, through especially military attaches, this branch obtained and prepared the law for espionage and presented to the General Staff. This was just accepted, nothing changed. The second branch prepared this law and imposed on the War Ministry, along with the government, to just pass this temporary law about law against espionage. And there were also other temporary laws, for instance, that directly targeted the non-Muslim citizens within the empire that were possibly seen as, who were seen as possible spies, and they were restricted for traveling. And here I would like to highlight a document from the archive. Now, when we see these deportations and also, I mean, traveling restrictions, the name of Talat Pasha comes the first hand, or Enver Pasha in this case. And here, as you can see, this is the war. Let me get it closer. In this document, this is the signature of the War Minister. However, here you can see a small another signature without any name of the institution above it, and no name. This is the signature of the intelligence of this intelligence director, Seyfi Bey, the successor of Karabekir in this case. So as we can see, I mean, this Seyfi Bey prepared this manuscript, and the minister was just a person who just signed it. I mean, I'm just trying to imply the institutional power of this institution. I mean, it is also taking part of the decision-making process, not only advising in this case. And lastly, I want to talk about, I know I'm running out of time, I want to talk about the propaganda and censorship in this case. And I said, I already told that the censorship and propaganda were totally under control of this branch. But we can analyze it in this case. I mean, propaganda and censorship had two roles in this case for the decision makers. One was gathering support from the citizens for warfare, and also obtaining early warning, and also prevention for spying. I mean, with the temporary law, another temporary law, the propaganda activities of other institutions were prohibited without the consent of this branch. And from newspapers to letters, all written materials from the couriers were checked by these censorship inspectorates under the control. And also the second branch established a war propaganda branch that controlled propaganda from publications to music, theater, cinema, war spoils exhibitions, and also that contained war photographs. Now, as we know that the Ottoman government based its policy on especially Turkish nationalism. So in order to conduct this propaganda, all the recruited personnel by the government were also checked by this branch and recorded by this branch, and they published on war magazine, as it is called, as Harp Mecmuası. Maybe you have heard of it. It's a weekly propaganda newspaper. It's a propaganda journal that was published by this branch. So, I mean, in this case, the government and the second branch worked together about the possible places that could be affected by this Turkish nationalism, and who would be most useful in raising the necessary nationalistic feelings to join warfare in this case. However, this act was not only for, I mean, propaganda concerns, but it was also a necessary counter-espionage practices, because they recorded the names of the war photographers, for instance, because a spy could, especially the Turkish people, even nowadays, love to, give photos, present photos in their military places. But however, a war photographer can easily take the pictures and see what is happening around. And this was also for domestic security in this case. Now, as for conclusion, I mean, this branch, as we can see, both provided the decision makers for certain strategies on how to prevent espionage activities. However, it was also strong enough to impose certain laws and regulations. And however, as for the efficiency, based on my own observations, they were not quite efficient, because this branch was quite understaffed due to payments and high work overload in this case. I tried to summarize, all these tasks all together, but I hope it has been useful for you. Thank you very much for your attention. I would like to have further questions if you have. Thank you.